Hello and welcome back to the Degen crew, where I'm trying to grow my poly market account by finding a mispriced prediction markets. I know it's been a while, but I have a good one for you. Here is what I'm looking at right now. So the one I want to go over with you guys is and the one I've been purchasing is, will Apple beat quarterly earnings? Today is April 30th, and the earnings report is today after the bell. I've bought about $970 worth of this, and I've been trying to buy around 90 to 92 cents. I actually wanted this position to be quite a bit larger, but my orders didn't get filled. But like, I was looking in the magnitude of between $5,000 for this, and I had some open orders open that I've now canceled because it is above my entry price. This is sitting at about 96 cents right now, and I also did take a little bit of profit already at 96 cents. The three things I want to go over is, how often does Apple miss earnings, Tim Cook leaving as the CEO, and AI narrative multiple a reset. So the first part is, how often does Apple actually miss earnings price? So that's not 95% of the times that they miss. That's actually 95% of the times that they've historically hit. Apple's beat/miss track record. So over the last 18 quarters, they've had 17 beats and one miss. I think the one miss was in 2023. So Apple's last miss was in February 2023, but that was their 1 in 17. And I don't know what was the reason for the miss there. Probably the iPhone cycle. They weren't selling enough iPhones. But yeah, so the 18 out of 17, 17 beats and one miss, which is a 94%. Over the past 5 years, they've had a 95% of the time beat. So that is why this one was undervalued, in my opinion. I was trying to purchase this. The options market was pricing in that they miss only 5% of the time, and I was able to purchase this for 90 cents, and then sell at the 95 to 96. So saying that they don't miss 10% of the time, they only miss 5% of the time. So I was trying to buy this undervalued. So that was part number one of why I was looking and trying to put this on as a larger position. Part number two is Tim Cook leaving as the executive chair. After 15 years, he has a cumulative revenue across Tim Cook's tenure from 2012 to 2025 is $4.5 trillion has been added to Apple in terms of revenue, which is wild. That's a huge number. So the question I was asking myself is, he's leaving as CEO and becoming the executive chair, so he's still staying on. The new CEO will be John Ternus. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. John Ternus will be the new CEO. But the question I have is, would Tim Cook leave as CEO? Would he leave the company in bad shape? Now, arguably, after that track record, people have been saying Apple is behind on the AI trend. But would you leave on a bad earnings report? And my answer to that is, after 15 years, probably not. So that's totally a guess, but that's how I think some people's egos would work. I don't think you would be passing on the torch to someone leaving the company in quote unquote bad shape. So I don't think Tim Cook will leave it to John Ternus after having a bad quarterly report where they miss the iPhone sales. The new iPhone has been the last earnings where they beat. They were growing 14% revenue, I think, or 14%. I don't remember what it was. My point is, I don't think he would leave John Ternus after having a bad quarter, and I think that's purely an ego thing. And the last part of this is the AI story, and this is where I actually think the big part of this is. And this is not necessarily why they will beat earnings this time. This would actually be a reason to buy the stock, but I think it's totally mispriced. People are missing it. They don't even talk about it in their on their earnings call in terms of how many Macs they sell. But let's go. The Mac Mini. No one's talking about this. How many Mac Minis did they sell this quarter? Even if they had poor iPhone sales, it's wild to me that no one's pricing this in. And I can tell you the research that I did on this one was more manual. I went to 3 Apple stores. I went to 2 Best Buys. I had all of the Apple stores look at the inventory across the other stores to see if they were coming in stock. I asked when they were going to be in stock. I tried to order online. You can't buy the Mac Mini. There's just no stock of it. So one employee said sometimes when something's out of stock, it means we're getting a refresh and a new product is coming out, and that's why they stopped making it. Someone else is saying because the RAM prices have gone up and they're putting the RAM towards other more profitable products. But when you think of OpenClaw, to me, the first thing you think of is how are you running it? And every time, every single photo, every single article, anytime you see anything about OpenClaw, you see a Mac Mini. So I went and tried to buy a Mac Mini. The only place you can buy a Mac Mini right now is the older models on Marketplace. And they're selling for double. So, the Mac Mini, is this Apple's AI story? Is the narrative finally going to shift for Apple? Because people have been shitting on them, saying that Apple is behind on the AI story, that they haven't caught up, that they had a 5-year head start with Siri. But is the real Apple AI story actually the Mac Mini? Yes, Apple's going to partner with Google. Yes, they're going to pay Google. Google already pays Apple something like $20 billion. For once, Apple's going to pay Google $1 billion for the use of their AI. But is the real Apple AI story the Mac Mini? I think it is. I think it's being mispriced. I think that's where the multiple shift could happen, because what we're talking about here is specifically replacing all employees with Mac Minis. So it's people aren't going and buying just one Mac Mini. They're going and buying 10, 20, 30 of them, 100 of them, 1,000 of them. Companies are firing all these people, but then not saying how they're going to replace them. The blanket statement is we're replacing employees with AI. We're replacing employees that aren't productive. But the real question is, are we replacing employees with Mac Minis? And if that's the case, well, we have to start looking at, okay, how many Mac Minis is Apple going to sell? And no one's modeling this. Why aren't they modeling it? Because it's not just these huge companies that buy Macs. They're not modeling it because it's mostly individuals right now. They don't look at the retail person and go, okay, this small 1-person company or a 5-employee company is going out and buying 3 Mac Minis to use as their employees. But when huge companies start buying 100, 1,000, 10,000 Mac Minis to replace employees, that's when I think the story does change, and that's where I think it gets repriced to the magnitude of 600 billion. We'll call it 600 to 800 billion dollars could be added to Apple's market cap if it reprices the multiple. It doesn't have to get to exactly where Nvidia is trading in terms of multiple, but just to reprice the multiple in general to be even a half of what Nvidia's multiple would be or is, and that could add 600 to 800 billion dollars onto Apple's market cap. I can show you the numbers behind that. I think I have them here. Because where is... Yes, every $1 turns into roughly 120 billion in market cap for Apple at current earnings. Closing half of Apple to Nvidia's gap would mean $5 turns into a PE expansion of 600 billion in market cap, or about 15% upside for the stock. So yeah, the Mac Mini. No one's talking about it. You heard it here first. Thanks, guys. That I know is a little bit not specifically towards Apple earnings. That's kind of where I think the surprise might be today, is on Mac revenues, because this was really the first quarter that they started. OpenClaw really took off, so I think you'll start seeing it priced in, and this might cause that shift, that narrative shift. But I'm starting to think this is the AI story for Apple, that they'll have the hardware to run all these AI models, to replace employees. I think on the earnings call, the downside, if you were buying the stock today, is the fact that the CEO is changing, and that causes a bit of uncertainty in the stock. But if the narrative does shift to an AI, even with the new CEO, then I think there's some upside for Apple. And that would, for me, would be not just buy the quarterly earnings, but be buying the stock. So thanks for watching. We'll see today after 4 o'clock.